Nah, I try to be more thoughtful about what I'm going to say, so as to not necessarily hurt people's feelings. And sometimes I really don't care about people's feelings. I just need for them to get the point. Did you feel good about that?
Yeah, I did.
You feel refreshed?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you for joining the show. It's Foursum.
That's
No.
you.
I try to be a lot more thoughtful about things, unless it's something that I feel like, you know, you get to the point where you've said something in particular so many times that you just need to go ahead
and remove the filter.
Just go ahead and take that filter off. Exactly. Yeah. It's like a purge. You feel so much better even though they don't.
Horrible afterwards, but you feel so much lighter. It's a heavy burden. Trying to get your point across with tact several times over and trying to use different, approaches to the situation. And when none of them work and you finally blow that top.
Yeah, I had a friend, man, that was in a relationship. Well, she wasn't in a relationship, but she was talking to a female for quite a long time. And she started losing interest in the person, but the person was really, really, really in love with her. And she didn't quite know how to tell this person that, so she let it go on for like a year. So when it was time to tell the person, she was near suicide.
Damn.
She was suicidal because she's thinking all this time.
Yeah, that it was going for
Yeah.
That's the worst thing. I feel like sometimes you have to just cut your losses, and you know that person's going to be hurt, but you have to imagine how much more hurt or how much more damage you would do if you prolonged the situation, or if you were to, I guess per se, lead them on, thinking everything is great. That ending can be so catastrophic compared to the little, spat that y'all may have if you just come up front with it, or the little argument you may have, or disagreement, and then y'all split and go separate ways or whatever. It can be so much better than waiting so long and then pretty much having someone's life in your hands.
Sometimes people say things for selfish reasons. Sometimes they say things that are pretty harsh to cut people down, to create some distance. It might be them avoiding their own feelings, or some insecurities and stuff that they have. So, I mean, you kind of have to look at the situation and see if maybe that's why people are saying some hard things. When it could definitely come a lot easier, like by being honest about whatever your true feelings or intentions are, as opposed to just saying something abrasive or hurtful to kind of push the person away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, look at it from that angle. I mean, can y'all think of other situations where...
Yeah, I do. I think sometimes it's a stereotype. With studs, a lot of people think studs are just mean mouth. We just go off. Sometimes our exterior or the way we're dressed, sometimes people think we just, I'm looking like this
rough.
They think that. They expect us to be that way. And then sometimes we get the bad end of the stick, because that's how films particularly look at us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always true with every stud.
Yeah.
A lot of studs are very, very masculine, real close to men. And everything they do is aggressive, like super aggressive. They can't even pull an ink pen out their pocket without halfway ripping the pocket off their damn shirt. So, it's just, but everybody's not like that. We don't have that hawkitude. If you want to call it, we just turn green about the situation. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hawkitude?
Hawkitude.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people think they're stud, they're this, they're rude, they're that.
But then you have some that play the other part of that spectrum where they're really, really sensitive.
What's that stud?
Yes, some studs are overly
I'm
sensitive.
sensitive. I'm about to start crying right now.
Whatever. Overly sensitive to where you can't really mutter two words to them without them either going off, wanting to fight, looking at you crazy, crying, or crying, or crying.
Or crying?
Yeah.
Or crying.
Or crying.
Yeah, you do have some stuff that's
And that also puts a strain on a relationship with a female that's looking at you to be like a provider. If she's looking at you in that manner, when she feels like something is a problem or something is stressing her out, she can't come tell you because you're gonna sit on the couch and cry about it.
That must really suck.
It does.
Yeah.
But see,
How do you tell a person that basically you're not at all what I need you to be, and you're a punk, and I really need you to wipe your face off on my pillow?
How do you say that tactfully or without,
How do you tell us?
Still, how do you tell us that like you're too sensitive? Or
how do you tell a femme that you're sensitive?
how would a femme tell a stud that's too sensitive that she's overly sensitive without
Whisper.
Don't yell it, that's for sure.
Don't yell it.
And you don't want to do anything like this so diversional is like writing a letter. Like that's so impersonal if you're in a relationship with
No,
a person.
sometimes it's web.
Text messages.
It's no different. It's a web communication, whether you write a letter. I mean, before we had phones.
Sometimes when you have like letters and text messages, it's hard to know like the tone that the person's using. So if you're overly
Use
sensitive,
all
you
caps.
automatically assume
Use all caps.
that
It means you're yelling.
is yelling at them over text message or on paper, or you know what I'm saying, if they read it and the person's basically saying, you know, I'm not happy with this, they'll take it, oh my gosh, she's not happy with me, period, and you know, my relationship's falling apart. It's just overly.
It's perception. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it does come down to perception. Everybody has their own perception of reality and perception of the situation. There's two sides to every coin, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, you can control what you do to a certain degree. You can't really, you know, control how people receive it. It helps if you are tactful. But sometimes you are still dealing with the person who really can't deal. And so the whole point, the whole strategy is to get the point out at all. Period. So that way, you know what, they can never say that they didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, we're supposed to be grown.
Yeah.
I can't speak for everybody, but we're supposed to be grown. You know, big boys and girls, do with what I say, do whatever you need to do with what I'm telling you. But the point is that I said what I needed to say.
Yeah.
I try to do it as graceful as possible. If you can't deal with it, you can't deal with it. If you want to talk about it some more, you know, let's talk about it. But I mean, I'm sorry that you're crying, you know, or crying.
And like for people that are like overly sensitive, I'm not knocking. I'm just saying take note and you know pay attention to how your behavior or your overreaction affects your partner. And just be considerate and mindful of that. I'm not saying like you gotta man up or anything like that, but just be conscientious of it, you know. The person might want to speak to you and feel like they can't because you're gonna just fly off.
You talking about family stuff?
Anyone. It could be like an overly sensitive femme that's trying to talk to her and explain things to her and she just like blows off all the time. You know, anyone that's just overly sensitive should just be considerate of the fact that there's someone that wants to speak to you and they don't know how to talk to you.
Well, and you also have a lot of femmes who talk to studs in this type of way, and they're not really too tactful themselves.
Absolutely.
And you have a lot of studs who are not like, they are sensitive. You know, they do have feelings. They do, you know what I'm saying. But because we're stud, you just come at it any type of way. You know what I'm saying?
I just feel like this. It's not a stud or femme thing. It doesn't really have anything to do with labels. I think it has everything to do with communication.
Yeah.
Some people clearly cannot communicate.
Right.
They just can't. You can tell them whatever you want, but you know when it comes time to getting feedback, they can't hold a conversation, or they can't comprehend what you're trying to tell them. Sometimes they are deliberately not trying to comprehend what you're trying to tell them to avoid the situation.
Yeah.
So that just makes your task that much harder. You do have people that are just outright disrespectful, you know, so you do have to kind of handle them a little bit more rough. And you know, I'm not saying you gotta smack them across the face and be like, "Look, I told you." You know, you don't gotta do all of that. I mean, if it comes to a situation like that, then there's really not much you can say. You might wanna
step out on that one.
Yeah, you know, is it really that important? Think about that.
Yeah. So I guess when it comes down to saying hard things the easy way, you just have to use a little bit of wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, kind of
Be
judge the
considerate.
situation.
You know, put the shoe on the other foot.
Or the sandal on the other.
You know, whatever.
Sandal.
Just you know, be considerate of the person you're talking to and how they may feel. Think about how you would feel if the person was coming to you.
True that. Be honest. Be upfront. Try to handle it as soon as possible. I mean, if you're thinking it, you know.
You should be able to say what's on your mind right then without being penalized for it. Even if it's not what's going on, just however you feel, you should be able to express it. Not saying that you're, saying that's a problem at the moment, just I feel like this. You should be able to do that without being penalized, without
That's what I do.
her being
That's what I do.
attitude.
I say things, but every time I say something, I get penalized.